Hey everyone, and welcome to another Nerd Room live stream. It's a pleasure to be enjoying the first Loki Wednesday, and we're going to be breaking down the premiere episode of the Disney Plus MCU series, the third one to debut. And we're not alone, guys. You got myself, you got the goddamn Batman. But like always, and like the tradition spells out here with our good friends, our brothers, the incredible Vigilante 1939 crew, Daddy Bats, Nico, and Zeddy. Welcome back to the live stream. I can't wait to talk about this, guys. But first, I'm just happy to be here with you guys.
It's unbelievable. It's great. I was talking to my dad last night when we were watching it to get ready for this, and we had such a steady flow of crossovers because it was Mandalorian in December. Then we had 2 WandaVisions, went right into Falcon and Winter Soldier. We had some of the Snyder cut things we had y'all on. So we were pretty consistent from December till mid-March with shows. And now like it felt kind of empty for a while. I'm like, man, I was so eager to come back on and just hang out with y'all in general. And the best excuse is to talk about another dope MCU episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was great. And stuff's coming. So
oh yeah.
I think our plate's going to be full going forward pretty much. So
yeah, man, and it's always so much fun to get together with you guys because we've always had this great rapport, and just talking about the MCU again, it's something that's been almost like perpetually cycling through at this point. We've got all these movies, got all these TV shows, but it's nice to step back and focus on a character that maybe none of us were really wanting to see again in any real capacity. And I'm interested to hear it as we get through this, how everyone's thoughts changed as this show progressed and getting kind of what you felt like from the onset right through into the end of this first episode. But my boy Zeddy, man, how you doing? How you feeling?
What's up, brother? Yo, forget low-key excited to be. I'm high-key excited to be here, baby. Let's roll. What's popping, baby?
Oh man, just made my night. We can end the live stream right now. I'm good to go.
High key,
baby. What could possibly go wrong? I don't know.
Come on. And of course, I've got my number 2 right here, the goddamn Batman. What's going on, brother Carlos?
I'm doing good, man. It's it was one of those. It was like the Crusoe said. Cheers, getting together where everybody knows your name. It's been a week or 2 longer than we've usually kept these get-togethers apart. And mind you, like the last one, like we literally shut the internet down that night. So
no one knows the post.
Always be closing, baby.
Well, yeah, this being a Loki Wednesday, it is very much that, a lower key Wednesday because I'm not going to work with a headache tomorrow.
Yeah,
I can barely move the next day after the last time we did one of those.
We'll have to do one of those soon, though. So
yeah,
we're gonna find a reason to do.
We're gonna have to find a reason to do that, but I agree with you about tonight. Yeah. Even I have early stuff tomorrow. So
yeah. Midweek, and let's go at that. Let's touch on that. You know, we've been spending so much time with these Disney Plus shows, going from Mando right through these Disney Plus with WandaVision, the Falcon Winter Soldier, always being on Friday, and it becoming a tradition of sorts, not only with us, but sitting down every Friday and anticipating, waiting, and getting into it in the same fashion that we would anticipate a film coming out on a Thursday night or a Friday. How do you guys feel about this switch up from Disney and this Loki show actually landing on a Wednesday, midweek hump day? It's probably okay, but I can tell you, I do honestly prefer the Friday.
Yeah, I prefer the Friday a lot. What's great is the incentive to watch it is, of course, what we're doing right now. So I was going to do whatever I had to do to watch it, but I won't lie to you. I was confused at the Wednesday thing. And then it kind of snuck up on me this week, just with my schedule. I work later in the day and I end later in the evening. So like, I just got home about 20 minutes ago, but I'm still ready to hop on. So we had to do the 2 a.m. thing last night.
Oh,
But I start later, so I was fine. But it was cool because it brought us back to those WandaVision vibes. But then I'm like, wait, it's gonna be Wednesday, and then I have Thursday, Friday to get through too. So it was different. But man, when you're watching that thing, you kind of forget what day it is. At least at 2 a.m. Or maybe I was so tired that I forgot what day it was anyway. But
yeah, I would prefer the Thursday night, Friday too. I started like kind of a health routine about 2 weeks ago where I get up extremely early.
Working out now.
and I'm
Yeah,
working
yeah,
at like
no.
6:30.
Daddy calves, baby.
His
But-
calves. Wait,
no,
show
no,
us your
no,
calves.
no, no.
Where's the camera?
But
Can I move the
Mr. J. Garrick.
I can't believe how much that threw me off this morning. I'm older, but it really, really messed me up, and I was crabby. Thank God we're going to talk about it. I really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
But even my wife is like, "What's wrong with you?" She's like, I'm like, I can't do this no
His
more.
calves
I
couldn't be as
can't,
firm
so-
today. So that's frustrating.
The sacrifices we make for
We do.
MCU content.
This is our passion. This is what we sacrifice.
Awesome. Well, let's just jump straight into this show. You know, Loki is a character we've been with since Phase 1, since Thor, since 2011. We've been with this character, Tom Hiddleston, in this role. He's grown, he's evolved so much into a fan favorite, so much so that they started to rotate the character around to being a bit more of an anti-hero by the time we got to Thor Ragnarok, and him having a very suitable conclusion to his story in Infinity War, where he had almost made that leap over to not only fan favorite, but someone that was doing the right thing off of the back end, while also having always that little bit of mischief in the background. But seeing his conclusion in Avengers Infinity War, I think a lot of us were in a space that we thought, okay, this character we spent a lot of time with. You worry about the character going around in circles and not being able to move past that brother competition, that back and forth with Thor. And do you push him into the anti-hero? And does that fit the Loki that we know and love from the comic books? But we have all that baggage walking into this show. Zeddy, my dude.
Mm-hmm.
When this was first announced, did you feel that this was something that was necessary? Was this going to be an important piece of the MCU, or is this an excuse to use that Endgame scene, which was very nicely set up, to just put a show on Disney Plus and just to have content there?
Hey, look, man. When the big man himself, Thanos, grabbed Loki by the head and said, "Good riddance, buddy. You get what you deserved," I was like, "Hey, man. Had enough of you. You were good, man. You were my villain in the MCU. You were solid, but you're Tom Hiddleston, so I'll take you any day of the week." But yeah, I mean, when I look at this show, I was like, was it the show that I needed or wanted? Probably not. But, you know, like all the MCU really does better than anybody is. They get you to care about things that you didn't think you wanted. They get you to care about characters you didn't think you wanted. They always leave you back wanting for more. And kind of like WandaVision was like that mystery box of intrigue. You know, every week, Falcon and Winter Soldier was kind of made you think about race and legacy. And this is kind of that brings you back full in the MCU, kind of gets you to maybe think about what's maybe going to be in store kind of for the future. And was Loki the guy that maybe I thought was going to do that? Probably not. But, you know, he's Tom Hiddleston. He's back better than ever. And let's go. So, yeah, not the show that I asked for. But you know what? They haven't really swung out on any shows yet. And I don't think they're going to anytime soon. So another great pilot in the books for me, gentlemen.
Yeah, and I want to touch back on that later about Tom Hiddleston and Loki actually being maybe the right character to walk us through what we're seeing and what maybe this episode and what the importance of this episode and this series is going to be. Carlos, did we need this show? Did we need a Loki show given the suitable and almost poetic ending we had with Loki in Avengers Infinity War, I should say?
Well, we do now. Because I was kind of on the same page as what you're hinting at and what Zeddy was getting at. We went on a journey with this character, and he had this beautiful poetic ending with Infinity War at the hands of Thanos, and you know that was your big culmination of the Infinity Saga. So that was cool, and he was a fundamental part of that. But once this show started going, and you got to see the threads as to where they're taking things, and it certainly seems that it's going to be a pivot point for the things that they're going to be doing moving forward. And one of the things I like in movies and universes is the rules for the movie and universe. Yep. And I think the TVA and this show is going to set up a lot of those rules. So yeah, I was spoilers, but I was kind of in the bag once this thing started moving forward, because you got to see its importance with the greater MCU for Phase 4, and I think it's an interesting and different way of getting us there too by using a character like Loki. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think it strikes the importance of what these Disney Plus shows are. And we talked about it in WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, both the premiere and the finales, that these shows have major implications for the universe. And they're using this long form storytelling to build bigger things so that you don't maybe have to do a lot of exposition pieces inside of your $200 million movies. You can get to the action, you can get to major character development of very important characters. Well, using these to, like you said, Carlos, set up your rules, set up what is next, and set up the next big thing. So I'm going to go over to the Crusoe household right now. Let's talk about anticipation and maybe the ever so dangerous expectations.
What are those?
For this show. Walking into it 2 a.m. last night, and then let's talk about walking out of it at 2:45 last night. And how did you guys feel, and how did this episode land for you?
I was excited about watching it because of us doing our thing tonight. I did not have a lot of anticipation or excitement for the show itself. When the show was over, I was hooked.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're going to break it down further, but he is so engaging. And we're at a point where good for him, bad for him, that I can't ever see anybody else playing this character.
Yep. Nor
Do I know what else he's going to do and ever achieve this level of success. But once it started, and they did a great job, and I thought it was kind of deep and heavy and emotional, and it really addressed some of the problems I had right away with them even using him in a series. Just like you guys said, I thought it was all over for him, and I thought it ended beautifully. So, right, I mean, we had to go to bed, but we were talking, and I had adrenaline. I was like, wow, I'm really looking forward to the next episode. And I didn't think I was going to be like that going in.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. The trailers were really cool. I'm with Zeddy when it was announced way back when. I was like, why do we need this? Why is it happening? I like his ending, and I was thinking it was going to be more of a cash grab. Let's just let this guy come back. Then the trailers came out, and it's like, well, there's a cool concept. I'm kind of in. Then I loved, what the MCU shows are doing so far. So as we got closer and closer and the reviews started coming out, the reviews were like, it's the next greatest thing ever, which is usually what first reactions to these things are. Anyway,
everything.
For everything. So I'm like, okay, let's see. And then a lot of people saw the first two, and some of the people were like, they both were really good, but the first one was a little slow. I'm like, okay, so we'll see how this is. It's 2 a.m. Just like Carlos said, just like my dad said, the minute this thing started, I was hooked. You're right. I love the word engaging. The whole episode was engaging. The writer, Michael Waldron, who's also doing, who wrote, I believe he wrote Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness as well.
With Sam Raimi.
Did a really nice job of laying out kind of what the timeline is now. We have some clarification what happens. They establish the time variance people, and then they give you Loki, and they actually give him development that we haven't really seen a character yet, where he gets to like self-reflect before it happens. Spoiler alert. Like he gets to fully realize himself without having lived it. And we get to see him literally in a different mindset, a different psyche, whereas he admits what he is. And that's big for a character to do. And that's something we would have never gotten if he stayed dead in Infinity War. So is it cool he's back? Yeah. I never thought they would get me to fall in love with this character. And they did, because now I want to see what this journey is. It's almost like he's a new character in a way.
Yeah, he totally
which is very cool. And sometimes that works for me, sometimes it doesn't. This time it worked also because Tom Hiddleston is so good. We all should have known that this was going to be great just with him in it. So I was hooked. I got a little emotional at the end, and man, I'm Invincible Fridays were a thing. # Loki Wednesdays are a thing now, baby. Let's do it every Wednesday.
Hiddleston and the Middleston.
Well done. And it's a great point you bring up there. And let's bring Hiddleston, let's bring Loki into the discussion here as we get into the meat of this episode. And he kind of goes through, like you're explaining, almost this existential crisis as he's watching his entire history, the history that we're aware of, that we've seen play out in front of him. Mm-hmm. And that beautifully ties into the title, right? Glorious Purpose. Mm-hmm. And that he is effectively, and this is what the Time Variance dude says, like, you were there to make people better. You were there to bring together the Avengers the same way he does it in 1963 in the Avengers comic book. Yep. He's there to unite the Avengers. In the absence of Loki, you don't get that. Mm-hmm. And it was just a beautiful tie to the speeches he's made in the past, the title of the episode, and his self-realization of what he is and his purpose, and the fact that he thought he was controlling his whole life. He had this path that he was controlling, but no, it was them letting him do this stuff. And it was such a cool little journey, like you guys said, to go on with Loki there and watch him at times very emotionally live his life and come to some sort of realization without stepping on the character that we grew and watched evolve throughout the Infinity Saga. And we're, like you said, Nico, we're in a totally different space with a completely different character, which blew my mind how they able to execute that. And the fact that it's Tom Hiddleston that then guides us through what you could argue is a very exposition heavy episode where they're setting up rules. They're telling you exactly what's going on. Like, they basically set up time travel and how the multiverse works to a degree inside of this first episode. And Hiddleston plays this incredible audience perspective where he's walking through and questioning everything. What are you talking about? Like, so that's what's cool. That's what I love about having that audience member as the actor, as the main player here, because he's asking the questions that we're all asking. When he walked up to there, I was saying, okay, well, the Avengers screw around with time. What are they going to address that? 10 seconds later, they addressed it.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. So Zeddy, having Loki in this position and to take from Nico there, being this new character, I think he was the right choice to guide us through what is going to be the next big thing inside of the MCU, and that is the multiverse and time travel, because to a degree, they kind of step on the Infinity Stones inside of this episode, which was interesting.
Man, they're literally paperweights.
Yeah. He takes the time one, coincidentally.
Yeah.
He sees all of them next to him. Oh, let me grab that green one. That looks significant.
I thought it was going to be, but Hiddleston walking you through this, walking us into the escalation piece. What do you do after the Infinity Saga? What do you do after Infinity Gauntlet? What do you do after Infinity Wars? Like, what is the next step? And this is it. And Hiddleston's guiding us to that.
Yeah, that's a tough one because, like you just said, the whole reason for Loki was, he formed the Avengers. He got the Avengers to unite, and now there kind of is no Avengers right now. So where I think this series might be going is, I'm on the fence on whether or not he'll be redeemed in some sort by episode 6, regardless if he saves time or he starts a new form of time. I don't quite know, but what I think is going to happen is how he got the Avengers to unite in the first place. I think he's going to do it again for another different reason.
Ooh,
the second time around.
I like that.
But it'll be a different Loki this time.
Ooh, interesting, man. We'll put a pin in that one until we talk about what's next towards the end of the episode.
Reed Richards.
Woo, I love that. Carlos, let's talk about time, multiverse, time travel. All these concepts that were introduced in the latter part of the Infinity Saga now get a full-on Disney ride explanation when he's going into this DMV looking place. But the rules that they set up and the concept behind the timekeepers, I want to hear some of your thoughts on those.
I loved how rigid it is and how they're set up to basically like prune these timelines off, and how they're always on top of it and they're not letting things go. Because that was one of the complaints coming out of Endgame, is that they were played it so fast and loose with the consequences of what they were doing. And then what you have as Captain America's ending technically shouldn't be allowed based on the rules that the Ancient One gave us, right? So I'll be curious to see if they address that at all, or if he fits in this perfect little strata where they allow it because he didn't mess anything up by hooking up with Peggy, who wouldn't have had her kids with other people, blah 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 blah. Who knows what happens with that? But yeah, I kind of dug that, and I dug how they're setting themselves up so that there will be a mechanism to manage not only time variance but also the multiverse. And I think, interestingly enough, that they're doing this to step away from having a multiverse messing with the MCU.
Yeah.
So that it's not going to be, you have Spider-Man here and he's coming in and out of the MCU through multiverse shenanigans and things that are happening in Sony or falling into the Disney projects. I think they're doing this to say that like those things can exist and they can run in their own streams, but we've spoken to that and it's not something that you have to ignore. It exists, but it exists because we allow it, type of thing, which is kind of a baller move, and it gives them options going forward, right? And so then if you want to do a Fantastic Four period piece, you kind of can now and use these guys to massage things to have them in your contemporary MCU at the end of it. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. Like it's funny because they borrow a ton from Legends of Tomorrow with the Time Bureau, but they did it just cooler.
Well, and you're right too that it becomes a mechanism that creatives and producers can use to keep a cap on everything that could potentially go on. And I think that's brilliant. Like, look, there's an entire show here that was conceived to tell what is going to be, I think, a really great story, but it is conceived in part to address the issues of the multiverse. And there's not a lot of companies out there, not a lot of studios that are doing and pay so much attention to these things that they literally have a show to control it, to bring a mechanism in.
Yeah, like I think that I honestly think that DC's doing a multiverse and Marvel's doing a multiverse, but they're doing them for completely opposite reasons. DC's doing it so that they can kind of spin things in whatever direction they want to. And Marvel's doing it so that they're like, we're not spinning things in any other direction. We're just using it as a way to control things as we move forward. So
The voice of God over there.
yeah, I don't know, man. Like I kind of think that's the plan, and I like it. Like I dig that it's gonna be separate like that. Like Tim and I had a post-record discussion about the X-Men yesterday, and like I totally think that they should use this to have the X-Men launch and thrive and play out in their own separate universe, and the culmination of phase 5 or phase 6 or whatever you want to do should be AVX, where you have a collapsing of that universe into the MCU, and just kind of do it that way. Like play it off as a version of when the Ultimates universe fell into the 616. And then, at the end of it, you end up with X-Men in your contemporary MCU, and you have a reason that everybody fears and hates them. So,
very cool, very cool. And it was a great discussion we had. We have it all mapped out, Mr. Feige. It's there for you if you need it. It's in that drawer that Carlos keeps all the scripts in, just off to the right of him there.
Yeah, whoever calls us first, Kevin. If it's you, we'll run with it. But if Walter beats you to the punch, we got to go there, man. It's
What about David Zaslav? Maybe he give you a call. You know?
yeah. Well, if anybody's got the connect to a guy like that, it's you, Daddy Bats. So let him know what we got stewing.
I'm
let
going
him know
golfing.
what's in the cabinet.
We're going golfing next week. You know.
Brilliant. All right, Nico, the next big thing, this a little thread that I pulled on there in the MCU, you know, how do you go beyond the Infinity Stones? And I think like purposefully they were mentioned in here. We saw a whole bunch of them, which made the Infinity Saga somewhat feel insignificant, but I think that's on purpose. I think what they're bringing in here is potentially your next big bat, and who's, you know, closely associated with time, of course, Kang the Conqueror, and who kind of looks like the Timekeepers. Kang the Conqueror.
So, yep.
So is time travel, is the multiverse, you know, with these boundaries put on it, is it the next big narrative through-going thread inside of the MCU? Is that how they outdo the Infinity Saga?
I think so. I think it's actually the only the only way they could have went, because the Infinity Stones and Thanos were the most powerful things in the universe, but it was in the universe. In this one, it was very those stones all connected these characters and these films and this 22, 23 film arc. How do you make that greater? Is instead of 23 characters and 23 stories, you connect 23 plus universes now, and you expand. So here's our one world. Here's the MCU. Screw the MCU. Here's the MCMU, the MC multiverse, right? Let's go bigger. We got X-Men and Fantastic Four now, and we got whatever they're trying to do with these Sony Spider-Man characters. So it's go bigger. Like Carlos said, you could keep things where you want, bring them in and out when you want with these rules they establish. But the next big thing is multiverse / time travel. Because if Doctor Strange 2 and Spider-Man No Way Home are any inclination of what's going on, it's that these people want to come back to get some paychecks. So you're going to have to go backwards in time to get some of these people, Hugh Jackman. So it has to be they connected 23 films. Let's connect 23 worlds now. And after that, I'm not sure what they could do after that. With as Secret Wars, you let them all fight on one planet, and then the movies end forever. And then the movies end forever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or eventually do the Marvel DC crossover. So, I don't know how you go bigger than this, but this is huge.
Yeah.
I do think it should be Kang, but I would like if it was Kang and Galactus.
Or Doom.
I think they have, this has to be huge. This has to be 3-4 phases worth of films.
Yeah.
It's got to be another 10 plus years of filmmaking if they're going this direction. You know, is this the true kickoff? Or was WandaVision the kickoff? It's about phase 4, and it's about how you grow this. And they didn't rush the Infinity Saga.
No.
There's no reason to rush this. Like the Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home are not going to be the end of the multiverse, I don't think. They're going to be maybe the expansion of it, where the time variant loses control maybe a little bit of what's going on, and maybe it's nucleated by Loki here. But I think we're gonna get some insight into that, which is exciting. And I didn't expect this show to be the show that set all that up in a more explicit way. I think like WandaVision kind of touched on it with some of the Nexus stuff, but that was more about Wanda growing into Scarlet Witch. This is about more about the MCU. And you're gonna get the Loki stuff, but it seems to be a much bigger cog in this huge puzzle, this huge piece machine that is the MCU. Now Daddy Bats, I want to talk about the emotional aspects of this show. And that was a word I saw tossed around quite a few times for just raw reactions from the show, was how emotional it was. Surprisingly emotional that it took you on this journey with Loki. So what was it about this show that had the Caruso household a bit choked up at 2:45 in the morning?
Because I thought we saw all we were really going to see from Loki in all his previous appearances, in his journey, his arc, what he went through, becoming the guy that wants to take over the world, to, like you said, sort of like an anti-hero. But to see him watch his life before him, and when he saw what happened to his mother, which obviously he doesn't know yet, I thought that was extremely emotional, because for the first time you just saw him in a different light than we've seen him, even when he was heroic in Infinity War, when he obviously tries to kill Thanos, and it just made me look at him like, I told Nick, I said, how in the world are they going to get you to care about this character, to kind of root for this character? And it's amazing that they did it. I have such an appreciation for the MCU and what everything you guys have talked about, the plan. We all make fun of the plans of different studios, but they have a plan that's infallible, and it's so strategic and masterful, and it's beautifully emotionally put together. It's not just let's do a couple things here, a couple things there, and it just I'm having a hard time like getting my head around what is probably going to come. And what this show is just building upon some of the things that happened before and what it's going to be. So, like, I went into the show like thinking I was tired of Tom. I was tired of Loki, and it's like he actually brought little water to my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I cared about him. How could I care? And then he admits, and then he realizes what he is.
Yeah,
that it's all a ruse.
Mm-hmm.
That he really doesn't want to kill people, and that he doesn't. I mean, how beautifully was that written and was that done? I'm thinking about it now. I want to watch it again probably later tonight. We only watched it one time, but and again, this Tom Hiddleston, man, oh man, he is. We've been having a lot of discussions about some of the great acting roles and cast or whatever, but this guy he's got to be like in the top 10 really of all-time superhero character castings.
Yeah,
he's just that good, and he's been around for so long and been in so much. You cannot deny that. You can't.
Absolutely not. And the crazy part about the emotional pull of those scenes is that's all in Hiddleston, because everything they're showing you, we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know exactly what the story is. We've had the time to spend in whether it was Dark World or Ragnarok or Infinity. We know exactly how all that played out. And it was just a different spin, and it was the way that Hiddleston approached it, and of course the writing and the directing in and behind it, that allowed a different connection, and it made us feel a different way, kind of retroactively, about Loki's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, to me, that's very difficult to do. And I think that was the biggest hurdle that they had to get over, was people had to fall in love again with Loki.
Right. How they did it is amazing, because what do we say? The main thing we said, right?
It was just that. And I think how they did it is they gave him why.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him okay, why did you do all this? We saw you become an anti-hero. Mm-hmm. We saw you redeem yourself, but why were you that way in the first place? And when he says, I mean, they got me. WandaVision had some of the best writing the MCU has ever had. Falcon and Winter Soldier had small moments that were some of the most stellar writing the MCU had. This scene where he goes, "It's what the cowards do."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, the self-realization there that we would have never gotten for this character if this show doesn't exist. And now we get to see if he becomes self-actualized. Is he going to become something different? Is he not going to be that coward, or is he going to be that coward again? And man, Owen Wilson guiding him is the best thing of all time.
I was just going to say, like,
it was Owen Wilson all along, baby.
Yeah. The first time in discussions of any media, I'm going to say, like, this thing really escalated itself and took it to another level as far as character development goes when Owen Wilson came on the scene. Like, nobody's ever. I know.
Wow.
Like, I loved how they had him play that detective / psychotherapist type role, and he didn't really do anything to manipulate Loki, but he just forced him to look inward. In fact, he's not even the one that takes him through the journey of the rest of his life that he doesn't know. Loki does that himself. So, and they set up some interesting things with not only what their relationship is going to be going forward, but now that he knows what his fate is, will he be heroic enough to kind of confront that? Because they established that he has to go back to living that life in order for things to be proper. So
there's kind of almost, it puts a nice time sensitivity on the whole show. Like, does he eventually he has to go back, because that timeline, like, he's off on a splay, he's the nexus has happened, and that splay is going to grow with him still being out of it. And so it's going to be an interesting journey, that now that he knows his fate. Like, if you know you're going to die, would you go back to that timeline, or and how does all this work? And I think that nicely leads us into what is this show going to be about, because we are subtly led through what is the villain of the show through against the time variant. We have this Nexus being that is out, and at first they teased a little bit of the devil, And so I'm assuming all of us like me was like, hey, it's Mephisto. Like
Finally, it was in this show.
it's coming. We've been predicting it since WandaVision. It's happening. It's coming.
It's
No,
great.
Nico, you should know he's showing up in Spider-Man because he's a
Yeah.
mainstay of Spider-Man's.
Oh
lore.
no, he's gonna be Uncle Ben.
Is
Oh,
yeah,
no.
exactly.
Now
He's
he
gonna.
is, which
One more
is
day.
mad at
Yeah.
Dan Slott.
Oh, Peter, you thought with great power comes great responsibility.
That's why I'm blocked by Dan Slott on Twitter. Shout out to Dan Slott.
Nice.
That
nice.
is amazing. But
That's
it turns-
amazing. See, I love that.
it turns out that the horns are actually the Loki helmet,
Yeah.
as to what she was pointing towards. And it's interesting. We're gonna have the main villain and presumably your hero of the show be the same person.
Are we
And
though?
That was my impression.
Yeah.
So let expand on that, Carlos. I want to hear what you're thinking there.
I think it's just too easy. Like because the only evidentiary thing that they give you to suggest that it's Loki is the fact that the homicide scene there was multiple stab wounds, so they assumed that it was Loki based on him stabbing the victims there, and then what the little girl says with the horns. But I don't
does
know.
Owen Wilson outright say it's you? Like
He
you're the
does say
variant?
he
Yeah.
does say it's you, but I don't know that they know that. We'll see as the show plays out, and obviously we've seen glimpses of other versions of Loki.
Mhm. But you don't know from the trailer, like, which Loki is that?
But yeah,
Right.
I'm not convinced that it is Loki who's doing.
I like it.
Who's doing this? Like, I think you might have a big bad, and maybe it is Kang because like at that final stinger there where they show up, there's like the sword thing sticking out of the ground, and one of them says it's from the third era or whatever.
Mhm.
And isn't Kang supposed to be from the 31st century?
Yep.
Yep.
So I don't know. And like, if it is going to be Loki, why wouldn't they just show his face or his smile or something like that? under that
Intrigue.
hood?
Intrigue, man.
Yeah, I don't like it. This could be going down the dangerous path of WandaVision theory crafting, but
And it's hilarious that it's you that's bringing it up.
Oh, totally. Like how many? Like we did hours of content, and I'm like, I got no theories. This is where it's gonna end,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how it played out. But yeah, I think it's a misdirect with
The
Loki going after himself.
the thing I'm curious about too, Carlos, is I'm kind of with you because it's okay. Do we get like the Logan versus Logan thing, his old self or his himself versus quote unquote younger self, or are we really going to get two shows where the big reveal is Vision versus Vision, Loki versus Loki? Maybe.
I don't think so.
Man, if it's Kang, I'll lose my mind because
Me too.
Jonathan Majors got casted pretty early, man. Like that,
Oh, he
And
did.
it's a weird movie for him to be in, I think.
it's a weird movie.
You mean Ant-Man?
Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Weird
Well,
movie.
And they've got a pile of Lovecraft County cast in this show.
Yes.
Good point.
It's like what? Like let's throw this out there. If we're gonna go down this path, let's
Yeah,
go
let's
down this
go
path.
down the
Let's
roll,
go down
right?
the path, man. Let's unroll this.
Yep.
Is the Kang in what is it? The Quantum Mania? Is that a giant misdirect?
It might be.
That they cast him at that time for this show, but they said nope, he's gonna be in this, so that no one is thinking of Kang. Because Kang is, to me, not only just because it's time, his face is all over those timekeeper statues in the background. Like
Yep.
that,
Oh,
the
yeah.
look.
Oh yeah.
You look at that, and it's like you got the lines. There's something there, and I wouldn't doubt if either Kang is a rogue timekeeper. That was kind of my initial thought, that he's kind of, there was 4 originally and there's 3 and then he split off and kind of is doing his own thing. And, now that you got me thinking, Carlos, like, cause I bought right into it. It's Loki versus Loki.
I have a giant prediction.
I love it. Bring it on.
Remember that I said this Wednesday, June 9th, 2021 at 9:10 Central Time, 8:10 Mountain Time. This popped in my mind because now we're thinking about it. I think Kang is in this show. I do not believe Kang is in Ant-Man 3. I do not believe Jonathan Majors is playing Kang. I believe someone else is playing Kang in here. I believe Jonathan Majors is playing Reed Richards, who's going to be introduced in Ant-Man 3 in the quantum realm. and that's going to launch the Fantastic Four film.
Wow.
Shoot.
I
That's
love
a
it.
big one, son.
There it is.
That's big.
Because
Oh,
I love Jonathan Majors. He doesn't feel like a Kang. He feels like a Reed Richards. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm into
Oh,
it.
If I'm right, because I also think that something that these shows should play with in time travel is the Council of Reeds. I think that should be a thing,
That would be
man.
pretty
Yeah, that
cool.
is
Yeah, yeah.
deep cut.
That would be something, man. Yeah.
That's
bold,
the best
man.
way to bring in. If I'm
Yeah.
right, I will get Zack Snyder's face tattooed on my lower back.
Oh man, I got a guy. So,
You
You
put it-
you went
put
through
it-
that anyway, though. So I mean,
Yeah.
already.
No, well, if I'm right about that,
You can't put out a plausible theory and then put something like that into the universe about getting.
I will do whatever the Nerd Room fan base wants me to do.
Easy.
I mean, hopefully they don't ask me to do something weird. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good people in Canada. I don't know.
Zeddy, man, where is this show going? Where is it going with the big bad? Where is this going in the next couple of episodes?
Oh man, weekly TV, baby, appointment television. Come on, it's back, baby. This is what they want us to do. We're falling right into the trap, baby.
Dude.
And I love it.
Carlos opened the door and I sprinted right through it.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
I know.
Oh man, where is this gonna go? I mean, I think they're gonna probably do a little WandaVision, throw a little metaphorical villain, and say maybe maybe the greatest villain itself isn't a physical being; it's time itself.
Mhm.
I think is the greatest villain. So I think that's gonna be.
It is.
This is the greatest
100%.
villain here, and I think it's going to be a chase to, I guess, stop time or prevent time from happening or stop something major cataclysmic from happening. And I guess a good twist would be Loki actually fails at that, but he doesn't fail because he failed. He failed because he couldn't stop it on his own, and now he realized he needs help. Because I still think that TVA is going to be like Sword here. I think it's a whole big old misdirect, but that's just me because I'm Lokiing.
in
No.
what way?
A misdirect?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm wondering if it's some kind of mirage or if it's some kind of like illusion, like he's there because somebody wants him to be there. He's not just there because he landed there. Or I'm wondering if something else is just going on in the background. I don't know. Maybe Owen Wilson is a twist character. Maybe he's just there to kind of pull the pin strings a little bit, kind of puppeteer some things. I don't know. But I think like WandaVision, there was a reason why things played out for about 4 episodes. So it may take its time a little bit. If they're longer episodes, the episodes are going to bleed a little bit more. So there's more is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the good part about the show.
I think we're gonna have the internet on fire again in the same fashion that we did for the 9 weeks of WandaVision, where it was this perpetual cycle. And I got trapped in it. We all got trapped in it in some capacity. But the show is inviting us to do this again. Like the show, just given the boundaries that they put on it with time travel and variants and Nexus beings and potentially a Kang and all this stuff and a mystery villain. Like Falcon and Winter Soldier was very explicit in what it was, right? What it was doing with the characters. It was very grounded.
Mm-hmm.
We knew generally where things were going, who the main villain was. Was it John Walker? Was it the Flag Smash? Like it was all kind of laid out in a couple episodes. This is inviting intrigue. Like that is what is driving people towards this because, like I said at the start, you could argue that there's a lot of exposition in this. It's engaging exposition, but the intrigue that it brings you into and what they could do with a story is going to be another driver. And that's the same thing with WandaVision. We had no idea what was going on week to week.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to be a little careful about expectations because we talked about this before, about what expectations can do to a show. Because it's funny, when I first logged onto Twitter this morning, the first thing I saw trending was Loki and Magneto.
Oh God!
And I was like, what? Like,
Wow,
I was like,
really?
crap, did I just
I didn't
spoil
see
myself?
that.
So what it was,
What was
there was someone online that had said that the vaccines cause you to be magnetized, and then the whole world exploded and said, hey, if that's what they're doing, I want to be Magneto.
That's
Magneto's
hysterical.
trending,
Wow.
and Loki's trending because it's a new show. And I was like, oh no, what did I do? How did I spoil? So I kind of went into this thinking like, is Magneto going to be in this? Like I was trying to ignore it, being like, there's must be some other reason that Magneto's trending. Not the reason I thought that everyone think they're magnetized now. But it was kind of a funny thing walking into this because we were so careful by the time we got to the end of WandaVision. This is not try to jump into this expectation and these preconceived notions as to what's going to happen. And here I am, the first episode, thinking maybe the X-Men are being introduced.
Where's the aerospace engineer when we need him?
Whatever happens, as long as it's not as annoying as the discourse around WandaVision. Like, God, like, oh, Wanda's trauma and like, shut up, just stop. It got so bad. Like, honestly, I'm sure that contaminated my enjoyment of that show.
Sure,
I just hope
that way.
I just hope when this show does, because the creators came out again and said there's real surprises, they're unexpected, no one's gonna see them coming. I hope there's not teases again, like, oh, I just called our guy, and then like 3 episodes happened, and it's like a scroll again. What I will say is I'm going to be the reason you guys are all upset in 6 weeks, because now I'm thinking of people that the show could bring in, and the perfect villain would
Captain
be
America, man. He's going to run. He's going to run
that,
right up against Cap.
Well, yeah, and the Red Skull, who's still out there.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if Steve Rogers shows up in this.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Like that they run, even if it's like, it might not even be an Evans cameo, right? It might just be from behind or some reference to him, that him running around putting back the stones and all that. Like it's not out of I think character, out of the MCU's remit to have him show back up.
He's in the red, man. Like I said, he shouldn't have gone and got his rocks off. Like his sperm might have created a whole variant timeline. They got to go put the thing down and call that thing off.
Yeah, man.
Just imagine that.
I don't, like I said, I think the other 2 shows, like, I'm not looking at this show like of speculation. The first episode was just so good. I just want to enjoy it. I think, WandaVision, all that speculation, but it was still an isolated show really about her. And same thing with Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? I mean, they did tease somebody was coming. It turned out to be, what's her name? Julia Louis-Dreyfus. But this show is just much broader in scale.
Yeah.
With time and what it could encompass and all that. I'm not like, I just want to enjoy it. It was so good, the first episode, Owen and Tom, and I don't really care if anybody else shows up. I'm not looking for
I don't think it needs
and maybe we're gonna get it because like maybe this is the show, the right platform for some of that stuff to happen. But like, I don't care, man. I just want to see the next episode and see where it goes from here. And I'm believing in Kevin Feige that I don't think these big things are going to happen in these shows. That's what I think myself. What do you think?
Silver Surfer.
Oh God,
you would.
I will be mad. I will be mad in 6 weeks. You just watch me do the Inception. Thank you, Chris Nolan, for teaching me how to do that. You plant the idea.
I think it's funny that like the theory craft has been so muted on this show, but it's the one that's literally built for it.
Exactly right. This is the show maybe where you're asleep at the wheel and you're like, oh my God, they really did that. I don't think they are, though. I think it's going to be good enough on its own. I think that we're going to get, like you guys said, I think it's Loki is not going to be the villain. I think it's going to be a misdirect.
Willem Dafoe.
William Dafoe. I'm something of a scientist myself.
I'm something of a god of mischief myself.
And then Tim, and then you got all this stuff coming. We got the multiverse of madness and No Way. I mean, there's so much stuff coming that it's really hard to wrap your head around.
What I guess it's how much do we appreciate these shows for being major either exposition or mechanisms to drive a wider narrative in the MCU? Because I think we're still at a point where, and I think Feige and company are thinking these shows are as much or as important as movies. And I think that we still have this mindset where TV shows are there to reference movies, but they're not there to influence. And I think we're looking at almost an inverse in this situation where these shows are going to influence in some capacity. Like you have to watch these to get the full scope of the story.
It's ironic that you say that based on how they treated Phil Coulson in this show, because they basically insinuated that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. you don't have to worry about that at all.
Right.
No, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't like, it was done under a different Marvel banner, under a different.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
It's a part of the multiverse.
Yeah.
But you know what else is interesting too? That we know we pretty much know from the man himself that there were scenes shot for these TV shows that are actually going to wind up appearing in the movies. We know there was a Florence Pugh Zemo shot that we're going to see down the road. We know there was a Doctor Strange scene that they decided it was better off to have it be in the movie, which makes me think still that they kind of reassessed and said, like, you have to watch these shows, but they're not going to give you like that big home run moment. That's still going to happen in the movies. Because if you don't watch the show, I think they still want you to see the movie, and you don't have to go back and watch 9 episodes. I think Feige himself was even quoted as that. It is a little vague because I still think you need to see everything myself.
Oh, agreed.
And I'm that kind of person that doesn't want to miss anything.
Mm-hmm.
But to the mainstream audience member, you know, will they go see Doctor Strange and they didn't see Wanda? And I don't know. Maybe they could piece it together. Maybe there's some little explanation Strange gives that scene that didn't appear in the TV show that's going to be in the movie. But regardless, it's all essential to me.
Yeah. And they'll probably bridge for the wider audience in those films. But we're talking about like home run moments. We've got Sam Wilson, Captain America. Huge moment. We've got WandaVision becoming Scarlet Witch. Huge moment. In this, I don't know, maybe we're going to get Kang. Maybe who knows what we're going to get. Like each show has had a significant piece that is going to show up in a film. Like I don't think that Sam Wilson Captain America is going to hang out on Disney Plus. Like he's going to be leading the Avengers someday. And so people can make that leap and just be like, oh yeah, he's Captain America now. Do they want the story behind it? Sure, you can go visit on Disney Plus.
That's my point, because I think there's people that at the end of Endgame just assume he got the shield. He's Captain America.
And that's an easy
if you want to
leap.
see how that happened, you can. If you don't, you're kind of like, I get it. He's got the shield. He's Captain America. So I think that's what I think that's what he's trying to do. But obviously we're going to know soon. So
yeah, very, very soon. We don't got too far here till we get to Black Widow, which might be a bit of a stutter step because of the release. But once we get to Shang-Chi and beyond, Eternals, which is going to be a big one, I think. Another one that could have like this Loki-esque feel where we walk into it thinking, do we really need this? And boom, all of a sudden, you know, what was the rumor I heard the other day? Namor and all that is going to be introduced in Eternals. So this show, it's like we said, appointment watching every Wednesday. We're going to be breaking this down. Of course, we're going to be revisiting the finale over with the Vigilante Boys hosting there next time. And before we wrap this up, I just want to give a shout out to everyone that is in the comments here. We got Dave. He's encouraging the tramp stamp for Nico here. Dave, if he does get that prediction. We've got Ian, our boy Ian there. Big shout out to him.
Ian's the best.
We got Chris Evans, best name in the game here. I like this. Owen Wilson is Mephisto. Wow, I'm Mephisto. Good. And Rick just jumped in. He's chirping Carlos here. And question here from Chris asking if Captain America violated timeline. I think the answer is yes. And I think what the exposition inside of it was that they allowed him to do that because that was always meant to happen. So it's interesting because, you know, Doctor Strange saw 14 million different universes, whatever the number was. So that's like a little bit of explaining to do here. But guys, let's go around the table one more time. Final thoughts on the show, and then we'll see where we go next here. So Caruso's, let's final thoughts on the first episode of Loki.
My final thoughts are that I am eagerly anticipating next Wednesday, but not at 2:00. And I really believe that Tom Hiddleston, I didn't think I could care about him again, even though I think he's absolutely wonderful in the role. And he was magnificent in this first episode. The entire cast was, and Owen Wilson, like you said, Carlos, I mean, he plays that kind of understated psychologist, if you will, not really pushing, but trying to figure Loki out, trying to get to him because he needs him. And it's going to be a great dynamic going forward, man. Wedding crashers. Maybe they crash a few weddings.
Then that means Vince Vaughn showing up. Yeah. Which I would love Vince Vaughn shows up in the show
Just
somehow.
shows up randomly.
Final thoughts. I love it. I'm excited. I don't know where the ride's going, but I'm on the ride. Shout out to Tom Hiddleston, because the original 6 Avengers got a lot of love, especially when it came around to Endgame and the $2 billion, et cetera, et cetera. I do believe, even though he wasn't in the film, Tom Hiddleston deserves as much credit as anyone. Iron Man made everything possible, but the Avengers really made everything possible, and Loki was the person who brought them together. Tom has as many appearances as someone as like Hawkeye, so the MCU's success, I will say, Tom Hiddleston has just as much of a hand in it as those original 6 did, and I'm very happy his payoff, I think, is being able to launch Phase 4 for us, and the cool stuff about it. Shout out to Tom Hiddleston. Sheesh,
Are you saying he's a pop culture phenomenon?
I'm not getting into that. We'll get into that Sunday.
That's what I'm told. Overall, let's go live. Let's go live this Sunday. You guys are debating.
That's gonna be fun.
But yes.
Yeah. Carlos, man, final thoughts. Now that you've opened the forbidden door of theory crafting for Loki, it is your fault. But your final thoughts on this one?
I know, and now I'm like wound up so tight that I can't relax. Rick, you need to have me on one of your shows, man, and like just cool me out a bit. I'm all in. Like I probably enjoyed this premiere more than the previous 2 MCU shows, and kind of like Nick said, just in for the ride with this one. Like, can't wait to see how it unfolds, and I think it's going to be a major cog in how everything works for the next phase of the MCU. So I'm excited to see that. I was totally down with them laying out rigid rules for what they're doing, which is cool, because then when they break those rules, we'll have fantastic and interesting things that play out. So
Consequences.
Well said, Carlos. Zeddy, bring us home on this one. Final thoughts here.
I'm excited. I really never thought I would say that about a Loki show, but like the quality of these shows, I mean, to me, they don't really feel like TV shows, to be honest. I mean, they really feel like I'm watching these mini movies, and next week, I can't wait to watch my 50-minute mini movie again next week. I mean, and if I got to care about Loki again when I thought I was done with him, I can't, I got to think that Feige's going to do the same thing next month with Black Widow. And that's just the power of the MCU, because that's just what they do.
I thought the exact same thing, man. It was like,
bring it on.
Toby.
Yeah. As soon as that show ended, I was like,
yep,
we need a Black Widow film.
Yeah.
And they're going to do the same thing again. You're going to want Black Widow again. Yep.
Yeah. I'm right there with you guys. That is a full roundtable. Big recommend for Loki here. Get into it as fast as you can. It does what it needs to do, and it brings you to a new level with Loki. And that, like, I think you said it best, Nico, when you said that, both on Twitter on here, about we have a new character to explore with. This isn't rehashing old things. This isn't going back. That exists, but we're working and walking through with a new character, which I think is going to be the most intriguing, interesting part of this. And then all the extra stuff is all cherry on top, icing on the cake. And I will buy into everything the MCU does, but it's even better when I don't have to sell myself on it.
You're in anyway. Hey, even a god of mischief can cry.
Yeah.
Which I thought was beautiful in this episode, man. Because I don't see Loki crying. I don't see much compassion for him.
It was great. It was awesome. I gotta end it there, man. I can't. It's not gonna go get any better than that. That high pitched little tune that came out of Nico there. But before we exit this live stream here, boys of a vigilante, always a pleasure talking to you guys about MCU, whatever it is, DC. Yep. It is. I like I said to Carlos before we started this, I said my excuse for live streaming is just so we can get on and talk to you guys. Wow. Everything else is a bonus around it. Yeah. Your shows, appointment listenings every single week, even if sometimes I listen to them twice in 1 week. You're so entertaining. You bring this breath of fresh air to fandom. And I just love the banter that the three of you have. It is absolutely incredible. So if you guys aren't listening to Vigilante, make sure you get over there, plug in, subscribe, do everything you can. But I want to give you guys an opportunity to give everything that you do a bump, and make sure you throw out your social handles there as well.
Yeah, I mean, and the same goes to you guys. We love your show, the Nerd Room. It's essential listening. You can follow me at N Caruso Jr. Yeah, right. We're doing plugs.
I thought you were gonna go on like
Oh,
a longer send
Well.
off. But no. Go. Okay, so N. Crusoe Jr.
Junior.
Okay.
This is the banter that I love.
That's
This is what
okay.
you-
Go ahead. You go next. You plug. These guys got so many things. To plug.
You can follow me here at Nico Crusoe, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd. You can find my film, TV, and comic reviews. I have a review of the show we just talked about over at www.letsgopodcast.com, which I wrote at 3:30 a.m. So if it's not coherent, please tell me, and I'll wait till the next time. But other than that, you could just find all the other shows I do, et cetera, on there. Me and my dad launched a Kiss podcast with a very good friend of ours, drummer Rob Myers from Everyone Loves the Drake podcast. So if you like the rock band Kiss, come listen. If you don't, come listen, because I think you may not be into the band, but you might be into the 3 different eras of fans who found the band at 3 different times in their lives, which is very, very cool. And then over at the Vigilante, we had one special sub episode regarding Flip Spidey with our guy Mr. Peter Vera from Batman on Film and Straight Outta Gotham. So that's us. Follow us at the Vigilante 1939. Come holler at us. We got shirts. We'll hook you up. Zeddy,
I got one.
Everyone's got one.
What is left to plug?
Oh,
you. Yeah, no, and then I do also want to plug over at the World's Finest, which is a sub show of the Vigilante.
It's great.
1909 podcast, where you might just hear a very, very familiar voice on this screen on one of the latest episodes. That was a fantastic conversation. I am talking about the goddamn Batman himself, Carlos, up there.
Oh yeah, it was great. That was
there.
awesome.
You go. But yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at ZeddyIs, because at the end of the day, I'm whatever Twitter needs me to be. You can follow all my film and TV reviews that include the latest episode of Superman and Lois over at www.letsgopodcast.com, and follow the Let's Go Podcast YouTube channel, because you'll hear me on some other shows that might include this Sunday's extravaganza. Is it July? Because I don't know, because Sparks might be flying on that one. Who knows, baby? Let's go. Thank you guys so much.
Oh man, your guys banter. Like when Nick called out Nico for the hyperbole a couple weeks ago, like I saved that episode because I listened to that segment. It freaking makes me laugh. I just about drove off the road when you're like, the hyperbole.
Children. There's
I love
still
it,
children to me, guys.
I love
me
it.
to tell you,
Every piece of it. And guys, myself and the goddamn Batman here. You can find us every single Thursday over at the Nerd Room. We're dropping a podcast tomorrow. We're focusing in on Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
favorite franchise of mine.
It's big for
And we're doing a little retrospective on that. And we're also talking Shazam and Flash reveals from this week as well. I've got a collecting video going up on this YouTube page on Friday. Is my Jurassic Park collection as we continue to celebrate Jurassic June. This will end up in the audio feed as well, this episode that you're watching right here. And you can find everything else that we do over at thenerdroom.net. You can follow myself at the NerdRM, and you can see Carlos's. I can never remember his exact handle. What is it? CDN Caped Crusade R. You can find him there. And Twitter,
Canadian Cape Crusader. I've had it since
Canadian.
the MySpace days, man.
I love it.
I've had to keep it.
I listen to our outro every single week that has our Twitter handles because I had to spell it out because it's not Canadian Cape, it's CDN Caped Crusade R.
Hey man, if I was in the Olympics, that's how they'd spell Canadian. So
This is true. This is true.
abbreviation.
So guys, thanks so much for everyone watching there, and we'll tune in back. We got 6 weeks, and we're gonna be back live with the Vigilante Boys here, wrapping this thing up. So that'll be over on the Let's Go YouTube page. And Let's Go. I was talking to Chris earlier about the big live stream on Sunday, so you guys are gonna have some nice debate there. So I may or may not.
and you're gonna be on Let's Go, right?
Yes.
Hey, that's huge. I can't wait a second. We got to plug that. That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yes.
Oh wow,
Wow, that's awesome.
that's outstanding. I can't wait for that. They finally got someone famous on.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Enough with these creators and these.
Who needs those guys? You need to listen to me ramble
We're
on
going to bring
for
the
an hour.
views on, buddy. We're all coming for you. We're all going to be there, my man.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
excited
Wicked.
about that.
Wicked. All right, guys. Thanks again. We'll see you in a couple weeks doing more Loki. And as always, thank you guys so much for entering the Nerd Room.
We're inevitable, baby.